bad guys. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you?
I'm going to go ahead and bring in my guest for the evening. This is Judah Rad from the channel I Freaking Love Comics.
Hey! What's up, everyone?
Hey! Everybody's aware of the Punisher, too. You know what I mean? Like, even if you don't know shit about the Punisher, you know what the Skull is. You've heard of the Punisher. But I feel like a lot of people weren't aware of the what he actually does. And, yeah.
Gleefully wastes racist cops by the dozens.
Yeah. I mean, just pretty much anybody that he decides is unworthy. And that's kind of, you know, a bad guy, which is kind of the problem. It's like, and I talked about that in the fucking hour and a half of Punisher content that I did. But yeah, like he's, it's cool and it's fun to read and it's exciting and stuff. But like, it's not meant to be glorified. It's not meant to be like, this guy isn't.
Not a blueprint for responsible criminal justice.
Yeah. It's like Jerry Conway says, it's an indictment of the criminal justice system and law enforcement, and, you know, the failures of it. And they miss that because they don't actually read the shit. I don't think the people that adopt that.
They don't read the shit, and when they do, they completely miss like the point of the shit. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, Frank is not on your team, guys. I love the fact that Jason Aaron is coming back to the character, because I don't know if anyone remembers, but after Garth Ennis had his like sick run on Punisher Max, Jason Aaron sort of came in and like resolved the run, like did like the last few arcs.
Yeah.
And they were really badass. It was really good. He definitely has like he has a history with the character, and definitely excited to see like what he does with it.
Yeah. I mean, I think Jason Aaron is able to take, you know, characters that
Xeon
are, you know, like, in the wrong hands. Like Thor can be kind of one-dimensional, you know what I mean? And then Jason Aaron comes in and just layers the fuck out of him and like makes him, you know, such a much more nuanced character. But yeah, let's check out the news.
Okay, let's see.
Marvel officially changes the Punisher logo in the new series. Punisher is returning to Marvel World in a big way. Monday, Marvel Entertainment announced an all-new Punisher series written by modern icon Jason Aaron. That's accurate, modern icon.
Absolutely.
And the art team of Jesus Saiz and Paul Azacito, I think. White guy, sorry.
Jesus Saiz and Paul Azacito. Yeah, I think you're right.
The House of Ideas is billing the Prestige series as the definitive culmination of Frank Castle's journey in the Marvel Universe. So they're pulling out all the stops for it. And that right there, I think says a lot, because it says they're doing this with more than, this isn't just another Punisher story. It seems like This is being done with a specific goal in mind.
It's kind of exciting because I can't remember the last time someone decided to tell like a weighty story about the Punisher. Not to say that I don't like recent runs. Like I like the Matt Rosenberg run. I liked the one that came before that. I've liked pretty much every run, but they've all been sort of just by the numbers continuations of Frank Castle's story. So it is kind of exciting to know that they're actually going to do something with this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right, let's see what else it says. Set to launch in March, the series will feature 13 oversized issues that run monthly, placing the finale out in April 2023. Saiz is set to draw the present-day journey of the character. Oh, okay. So Azacito's line art will be focused in the flashbacks. Gotcha. So there will be like flashbacks probably of more classic Punisher stuff, I guess. And then it's probably going to tie in with what they're doing now, which which I would imagine if they're going to evolve the character, their Punisher, which I think they are, and I think they're doing it for specific reasons, which we've already touched on. Then it should be something that ties into his history and kind of makes sense that way. Don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. So like the flashbacks will be Pajama Punisher, and the modern Punisher will be like either Trenchcoat Punisher or Body Armor Punisher.
Yeah. Man, they should just put him back in some tights. You know what I'm saying? Just give him, just the skull where the teeth are the belt kind of thing. That Anyway,
I love that design.
let's see. So the series is also changing Castle's iconic brand after its involvement in real-world controversies over the past few years. And actually, this is not even fully accurate because, as I said in my Punisher videos, the first instance that I could find anywhere of cops using the Punisher skull and iconography, they actually called themselves the Punishers, was in Wisconsin, I think in 2007. So it's been going on for longer than just a few years.
Damn.
So yeah, this is
Ooh,
the
there it is.
There's the look.
That I know Robo doesn't love that based on what you told me. Not to speak for Robo, but I fucking love that. Can I say fuck on your channel? I forget.
Fuck yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
you already did. You're like, can I fucking say fuck on your fucking channel?
So you know what that reminds me of? I know it's not the same, but it kind of reminds me of the Ares getup.
Oh yeah, it does kind of look like
You know?
that, huh? Yeah.
Like it looks like they're leaning into the fact that he just happens to have a similar costume to Larry or to Ares. Did I say Larry? Ares in some ways.
Yeah, Larry, the god
Larry.
of war.
Yeah. To answer your chat, I think Punisher Soviet by Ennis was the most recent one. By the way, that is a brutal little story. And it kind of fits in with Max Universe Punisher. But yeah, I like the horns. I wonder I wonder how they're going to explain these big ass horns and fangs.
Well, I think it has to do with the hand, right? So it looks like he's going to be maybe taking over the hand, and as the article says in a minute, it's like this. It clearly states this is the beginning of the evolution for Frank Castle. So like, I don't think this is the final form, so to speak. I think this might be just kind of a I mean the swords too. Like, I mean, look what he's not carrying.
No guns.
No guns. No guns.
No guns, no pouches, nothing.
That art looks fucking dope though. Look at that. Ugh.
Yeah. Ooh, that's what's her name? Madam or
I don't know. Gao? Madam Gao? Is that it?
Yeah, Madam Gao or something.
I don't know, but he's fucking handsome right there. I'm gonna
He is handsome. Yeah, I want to kiss him too.
All right, so let's see what else. Set up some more there. It's just fucking great art. After writing The Punisher over the years, I've always been fascinated by the character of Frank Castle. What moments made him the Punisher even before that fateful day in the park? And how far will he go to win the war that has consumed his life? Spoiler, as far as it damn well takes, says Aaron. The story is the destined next stop in the dark and tragic evolution of Frank Castle, from troubled kid to heroic soldier to revenge-driven vigilante to the duly anointed king of killers. Believe me when I say I'm as excited about this story as anything I've ever written for Marvel.
This is going to be badass, man.
Yeah. There we go. That's some more traditional Punisher imagery there.
There's like three ways to enjoy the Punisher, and I think they're all valid. There's enjoying the Punisher in Punisher Max, where he's like almost like a horror movie monster, and like all the criminals are like the kids in the woods getting picked off one by one. And that's a cool version of the Punisher. And then there's also the Punisher that just is there to satisfy our human desire for righteous vengeance. And I get that out of like, some of the older versions of the Punisher. And then there's I think the most interesting way to interpret and really understand the character, and that's as a victim of extreme post-traumatic stress, as a veteran. And that's also kind of an interesting take.
Yeah, and I think that's honestly that's the take, in my opinion. Like, I feel like, if we're looking back at what Jerry Conway intended with it, and what I think the most, I guess, socially resonant thing about him, and as well as humanist thing, is that, like, like we were saying, he's an indictment of failed systems. Like he for one, originally he was a Vietnam veteran, which was basically just throwing young men's bodies into the fucking grinder, and then once you get home, fuck you, you're on your own. So that was kind of part of it. And then, of course, what happened to his family, and then, like, because depending on what origin you're looking at, because it's kind of been redone a few times, but like basically the cops that investigated the thing were part of the gang that killed his family and shit. Like, so it's or just I think there was ones that they said they got off on a technicality or some shit like that. But yeah, so he's supposed to be representative of someone who is traumatized and created by the system. You know, he was like, he went to war and then he became a cop, and it's like the system created him to be a killer, and then the system failed him, and it's like, well, now you've got this broken, mentally broken killer on the loose. That's, you know what I mean? And I think you probably like the Punisher generally more than I do. As I said in my videos about it, like I don't want them to go away, but I'm very, very happy that they're making some changes, and I hope that it's something that sticks, because I think that, you know, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, clearly there's an issue there where he's being taken the way that he's been taken, to the point where his symbols been so co-opted that you can't think about him without thinking about, you know, fascists, essentially.
I have a defiant take on that. First and foremost, I'm also happy that they're making changes. Purely as a fan of fiction, you can't just keep a character the same for such a long time. Like, I'm happy to see them really put some like creative care into developing the Punisher into the next generation, the way they've done with, like, as someone in your chat mentioned, like the X-Men with House of X, Powers of X. So I'm happy to see that. I don't like the idea of capitulating to chuds. And just to kind of be clear about that, like, they can appropriate Punisher symbolism for, you know, their bootlicking cop worship, or for, you know, whatever shitty fascist or racist values that they have. But that's them doing it. Like, I don't think that they should be able to succeed at making it a them symbol. I think that people who truly understand the character and normal people should be able to enjoy the Punisher without having to like alter it to like deal with them. Does that make any sense?
I mean, I agree so I agree that, like, yes, I mean, in principle and theory, I agree with that. I think the issue is that they didn't get out in front of it fast enough. And you know, because it's like the swastika used to be, I think, a Buddhist symbol originally. You know what I mean? Like, but now you're not going to see anybody, even Buddhists, associating with that, because it is what it is. You know what I mean? And it's like, I think this is somewhat of a similar, obviously not the exact same, but it's, you know, on paper, the same idea of taking a symbol that originally meant something else. And I'd even argue that in the Punisher's case, there's more room for misinterpretation, you know, because it's if you aren't aware of the character's purpose of, like, being a commentary on law enforcement and the justice system, then yeah, it's easy to just think Skull is cool, death, murder, let's kill bad guys. And then you have cops who, you know, think of themselves as the good guys versus, you know, the civilians that they're supposed to, you know, protect, you know, and seeing them as bad guys. You know what I mean? They're evil. They're the good guys, you know, and that's not a good fucking way for cops to see themselves.
Absolutely. Punisher's not their friend. He's not on their side. It's multiple times that Frank Castle has slaughtered corrupt cops. I think a good way to combat the current, like, I guess, optics would be an arc where he's literally just running through hundreds of racist cops.
Well, I mean, you saw when Rosenberg wrote him, right? What he addressed it, you know?
Yeah, head on.
So yeah, in Matthew Rosenberg's run a couple of years ago, Punisher came across some cops, and they had a Punisher sticker on their bumper. And he told them this, as he ripped the fucking sticker off and ripped it up in his hand right in front of them, and told them, you know, in no uncertain terms, that we're not the same. You know, you shouldn't be identifying with me, kind of thing. And it's like, so I feel like this was Marvel's first attempt to do something about it. I think they did wait way too long. There's a corporate side of it, which is that Marvel is losing money. Basically, they can't monetize all of the products that are being sold with the Punisher logo, right? Like they've tried, they've sent out a couple of cease and desists here and there, but it's just too far gone now. So not that they'd want to, but I mean, like I talk about it, I'm probably going to say in my video a lot, because I did fucking talk. I went pretty hard in that video in the research and everything, but there was the point I made at the end of my video originally was, I know that, like, it's not like they're against calling people out for using their imagery when they don't want them to, because, and this is going to make Marvel sound really fucked up, but it is what it is. There was an instance of a British kid, like a little kid, who died of fucking cancer or something like that, and his parents wanted to put Spider-Man on his headstone because kid loves Spider-Man, and Marvel sued them, or at least sent them a cease and desist, that they were not allowed to put, or I think it might have been Disney, maybe not Marvel, but Disney, sent them a cease and desist, essentially saying you can't put Spider-Man on your dead kid who loves Spider-Man's tombstone.
I don't understand the legality of that, because it's not like he's charging people tickets to see the tombstone. It's if it's not for profit, do they really have any legal legal validity to their claim or their lawsuit?
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not a fucking legal expert at all, so I don't know. I mean, the whole thing is just, I mean, maybe not. I mean, just the fact that they would even put their legal resources into it, dealing with that, is pretty fucking
insane.
Disgusting. Yeah. And so that's the point I made at the end of my video, was like, I spoke directly to Marvel and was like, you can do this, but you won't do more to stop. You can go on Amazon right now and find just endless products, that are just the Punisher skull. And, I mean, I think part of the problem too is that it is just a skull design. And I mean, yeah, it's pretty distinctly the Punisher usually, but you don't have to change it very much to, I guess, make it not exactly the Punisher, but still be identifiable as the Punisher, which is probably why that new symbol is probably so distinct.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can't fucking copy that without somebody being like, that's our symbol.
Yeah. And I don't think, the thing is, like, all these people you described and what you mentioned earlier, they don't even read comics. So it's not like they're ever going to see the new Punisher symbol. They're going to continue to use the old one. They're not going to co-opt the new one.
I think my personal opinion on the most interesting thing that you can do with the Punisher is basically Daredevil Season 2, where you put him with a hero who does not murder, and then watch them kind of push and pull back and forth on how to deal with villains, and kind of have that ethical argument of which is the best way to do this kind of thing. Like, I feel like that's the most fascinating way to explore the Punisher, is contrasting him against somebody like Spider-Man, where the whole time Spider-Man's basically just trying to stop Frank from killing people, even though they're teamed up, but Spider-Man's like webbing his gun to make him miss when he shoots somebody or whatever. You know what I mean? In a unique twist of fate, Castle has been forced to become a warlord of the Hand, as he reports directly to the Beast.
Someone mentioned Shadowlands. Like, yes,
that's what it reminds me. Yeah, but yeah. I mean, hopefully this is done better than that. That was not a great event, in my opinion.
It was a little disappointing. Good concept, bad execution.
Yeah, and there's some good art too. But yeah, it was. It felt like they were trying to do a '90s story, and it just kind of came off weak. A '90s kind of had a lot of the same street characters and edginess to it, or attempted edginess. The new series happens to be Aaron's first return to the character since he penned Punisher Max between 2010 and 2012. That series featured art by the late Steve Dillon, R.I.P.
The ultimate Punisher artist.
According to Marvel editor-in-chief Akira Kurosawa, or whatever, it's an idea they've been mulling over for years, since the writer first pitched it at one of Marvel's legendary creative summits. A few years ago, Jason Aaron came into one of our creative summits with a pitch for Frank that made our collective jaws drop. The story is Jason telling a truly epic tale about darkness, violence, and choices that can only be told with the Punisher at its core. This series will build on Frank's legacy while introducing us to a side of him we've never seen before. And this is the most interesting phrase in the article, I think. Setting the stage for an evolution that we'll find was inevitable.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah, but you notice what's not on there?
No guns.
No guns.
Yeah.
But you know what is on there? The teeth belt.
Yes.
Fuck yeah.
I love the teeth belt. But what's in it? If there's no guns, I guess
probably more blades, man.
Stars. Yeah. Not a fan of
Zeon's Ghost. Yeah. Did you bring enough for everyone? Because
I could go for a cheesy gordita crunch right now. The teeth belt is for the snacks.
Oh, okay. That's what I got. Okay.
Yeah, he's got Got like some Snickers bars in there. That's what I would do. If I had a
Hell
teeth
yeah.
belt, each one of those compartments would be full of some type of junk food.
Maybe what happens in this new run is that, you know, somebody comes up to him and they're like, he's like murdering gangsters, just like mowing them down, and somebody's like, Frank, you know, you get really angry when you're hungry, like a Snickers commercial. You know what I mean? And he's like pulls the Snickers out. I don't know.
I used to punish crime. Now I punish my bowels with high concentrated fat snacks.
Oh, I was going to show you because we mentioned where's it at? You I made a joke to you. You made a pun about Frank, and I said something about it is a Punisher video. So I was going to show you this. This is the beginning of the second part of my Punisher video. I added some. I tried to add some little funny moments as well as some dog videos and photos throughout the second part, because it's so fucking depressing, dude. When I go into police stats, you know, national police stats and shit like that, and it's a doomer pill for sure. So I like put, you know, my audience.
Castle. Sorry, just answering Goldrex. It's Frankencastle.
All right, so just want to show you this beginning part here.
Family was murdered in cold blood. He turned justice into punishment. He makes bad plays on words. He is the Punisher.
You're out of hand. Crime is no way to get ahead. Oh, have you had enough? What? Looks like you're ready for more.
See, Robo, puns are funny.
Let's see. Yeah, Frankencastle is pretty ridiculous. I remember when it came out and I didn't read it, and I just remember I was like, that's the stupidest fucking thing they could ever do. You know,
the whole Remender run was like way over the top.
But I read it a few years ago and it was pretty fucking fun, dude. Like, it's pretty ridiculous, but it's pretty fun.
It's good. I consider Cosmic Ghost Rider to be a Punisher story. And that's also very silly, over the top, and awesome. I think Cosmic Ghost Rider is one of the most like perceptive, like one of the deepest like looks at the Punisher that we've seen in a while. I mean, it really sort of analyzes him below the surface, and once you get past the goofiness, which you shouldn't get past it because it's awesome. It's actually really
part
good.
Of it.
Yeah.
It's I talk about that in my video too. It was a very exhaustive look at the Punisher, those two videos. You know, but like at the end, I make the point that I feel like even then Marvel knew that they needed to do something, which I feel like maybe Cosmic Ghost Rider was somewhat of an attempt to do that. Like, let's test the waters with this thing, because it maintains the spirit of the Punisher while making him more of a cartoon, basically. But you know, and yeah,
that's like the Donnie approach is, let's take an established character and give that and put them like completely fish out of water with like powers that they are not used to. Typically, let's just make them a Herald of Galactus.
Yep, that's his favorite go-to.
That's his favorite go-to, and it's a good one. I'll give him that.
Mr. Person, man, I hate to keep saying these words, but in my videos, I did talk about both of those examples, about the times that they've made some weird choices with the Punisher.
You know, I'm active duty military. I think people who watch our channel might have picked that up, but you know, I can say as a member of active duty military that anyone in the military or in the police department actually like displaying Punisher imagery and like admiring the Punisher in the line of duty, unbelievably cringe. Like, could not be more cringe. Even as a fan of the Punisher, if I would never like have like military gear with Punisher shit on it, like,
yeah,
the lack of self-awareness.
Well, I mean, as I researched in my video and went over in the video toward the beginning, because like the first part of the two-parter is pretty much, here's the history of the Punisher. Here's why he was created, when he was created, you know, his rise in popularity. And then it ends basically with me going over when he was started being used by the military, you know, symbolically by military and stuff. And then how that became, you know, because a lot of people come home from being overseas in the military and they become cops. And that's how it kind of transferred into law enforcement. Is via the military. And but anyway, but like in the first in his first run, his first solo run, I think that was like the 8th issue, where he was already getting active duty military letters in the letters column in the back, the Punisher, and they were like, and not asking, you know, about the ethics of it. They weren't, you know, anything like that. It was all about the equipment he uses, the hardware he uses, and shit like that. So it was like already there were some people taking the wrong, you know, wrong things from
Fetishizing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't start with Chris Kyle, but that was where it was popularized. Yes.
Yeah. It's I guess it's dangerous. I don't know. I go back and forth with like messaging on like, you know, if like a responsible thinking adult or even like a kid sees something and like can put it into the right context of like, you know, this is a comic book. This is like a revenge fantasy. This is a commentary on post-traumatic stress, or this is just like something fun. Like, I think that's good. That's the way it's supposed to be taken. But then there's another side of it that for, you know, when you do something like that and it has the potential to be taken as like, this is a character I should admire. This is like a good set of values. Like, I don't know, like how much do you accommodate for that? How much should you accommodate for that when you're creating entertainment? Do you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's a valid question. I would honestly, personally say that I think Marvel didn't handle it responsibly a lot of times. Like, and you know, not to say that like they, I don't know, were, I mean, it's irresponsible in the sense that there's no way they could have predicted that, really. You know what I mean? Like, how do you predict that people are going to adopt that kind of symbol? I mean, the symbol is one thing, but then adopt this mentality that basically, you know, emboldens them to, you know, commit violence against whoever the fuck they want. You know, so it's not like they could have really planned for it, but I think that there was enough Punisher comics going on that weren't really hitting the themes of questioning law enforcement and the justice system. It was more just about glorifying the violence, right? So, you know, I think they're kind of in some way reaping what they sowed by not being as upfront about the point of the Punisher sometimes as they could have been. You know, and that's not to like demonize any specific writer or anything like that. I understand that, you know, you just want to write a good story and make it entertaining and stuff. But yeah, it's just a kind of unfortunate thing.
It's a shame because it's grating when comics, but pretty much all forms of entertainment, it's grating to me when they have to be so on the nose that they have to like explain to you, oh, by the way, killing people without, you know, extrajudicially, really bad. Like that, it's like it's like sucks you out of the entertainment. You know what I mean? But apparently they actually do have to do that, you know?
And yet these are the same as that fucking, that screenshot you just sent me a little while ago. These are the same people that don't like things, they don't like it so obvious and on the surface, right? When it comes to political or social messages, but it's like, you guys don't fucking get it otherwise. You know what I mean? Like, you completely miss the point if it's not shoved in your face. So
see Robo, I have to disagree. And the reason I disagree is because I put it on the consumer, because, you know, we can go to the theater like we did, and go see Joker and see it the way it was intended. We can see that this is not an admirable character. This is a deep dive into like insanity, and it's just supposed to show someone like gradually going off the deep end. And we're supposed to leave the theater thinking, don't be the Joker, you know? And I get that, but like, and with Rorschach, like this example, like you should, like an intelligent person, there should be art for intelligent people. An intelligent person should be able to draw the right conclusion. And I think that it's like damaging to the nature of art if we can't do that, if we have to always make things for the lowest common denominator and anticipate the dumbasses that are going to leave the theater from Joker and be like, oh, actually, Joker's awesome. Like, that's my idol, and that's who I'm going to go shoot up a movie theater in Colorado now. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, I kind of see both your points. It's like ideally, in an ideal world, it would be what you're talking about, Judah. But I feel like we are in a world where there's a lot of mental illness. We don't have, there's a lot of stigma against treating mental illness. There's, not to mention fucking a lot of people can't even afford it or access it. Mental health care, I mean. And so you end up with people who, They're not very healthy minded, and there's a lot of them. And along with other problems in our culture that create these types of fucking demented, deranged, antisocial, borderline sociopathic fucking mentalities. It's like it in my opinion then does become like what Robo's saying, and it becomes a responsibility for people that are putting content out there to factor these things. You know what I mean? Because if the Punisher is a social commentary, which he is, then you also have to consider the context of the society you're putting that commentary out into, right?
Right.
Which is what I think Marvel is doing now, and so that's why I agree with this angle, or at least the idea of it. Maybe it comes off worse. I don't know, but
You're right. Did you ever see Starship Troopers?
Yeah.
So
a lot of people don't realize that's satire.
Yeah, Starship Troopers is, in my opinion, a brilliantly done piece of satire that kind of shows like a fascist dystopian, like warmongering future. And it uses all of the same kind of tricks that fascist governments use to seduce you into a culture of violence. And the way that it really shows you that is by actually seducing you. Like when you watch Starship Troopers, you feel it. You're like, oh yeah, only good bug is a dead bug. Like, fuck yeah. It really does pound at your chest with those techniques. And you have to be like, I guess, I don't want to sound like a pretentious to say you have to be an intellectual, but you have to be like a careful consumer of media to really understand the purpose of it and why it is. And there are plenty of, oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, to that point, that's kind of the issue, right? Is that there are a lot of people that aren't, not to apply intelligence to it, but people who don't apply, they just want to watch a thing and connect with it in a mindless kind of way. Like they just want to feel the feelings of it, which is what I think the Punisher is about. Like when I first saw Starship Troopers, I didn't understand the commentary of it. I was just like, fuck yeah, kill those fucking bugs. The feeling of it, that emotional energy of it. Then you get older and you get a little, little wisdom behind the eyes and stuff. And you watch it like that. And it's like, okay, this all makes sense in a different context now. But a lot of people don't ever try to grow past that initial, I'm just consuming this media for my instinctive reaction to it. I don't want to think about it further than that. I just want to feel it, kind of thing. And
even doing that, let's say that we went and we saw Starship Troopers and we left the theater like, fuck yeah, that was awesome. Like the scene where he shoots the queen bug like right in the face, and like all that stuff. Like we could walk out of that missing the subtext, and even missing the subtext and just emotionally enjoying it as a cool movie. It still wouldn't change our values. We still wouldn't go home and think, well, maybe a military state where you have to be a soldier to be considered a citizen is a good thing. Like there's a certain normal person expectation that I think we're not putting enough weight on when we try to compel the media to kind of hold people's hand and walk them to the right conclusion. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with the term hold their hand and walk them to the right conclusion, though, because that would, to me, would be more like in the Punisher, for example, that would be like if there was a disclaimer in every issue that says this is social satire.
Yeah,
you're not intended. That would be like literally holding their hand. Right. So it's like, it's more about, I guess, I get it, man. I see both sides of it. Not to be a centrist on the matter, but I am in this specific context. It's like I see where you're coming from, and I see where Robo's coming from, and I'm always gonna err on the side of what's the most likely to reduce harm, and that's why I err.
I come from a place of resentment. Like I'm just putting it on the table. I do come from a place of resentment because I do resent that that we can't, as humans, can't just be expected to draw a reasonable conclusion from consuming media. And it's sad. It's disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, I had a tweet early on when I got on Twitter, which is I didn't ever really use it until I got on YouTube, and I did a tweet about, because my biggest video was about Watchmen, and I had some people in my comments. It was like fucking surprised the hell out of me. They're like, Rorschach is the one that makes the most sense, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, whoa, buddy, what did you read or watch? Because how did you? And so I tweeted something like, if you ever encounter somebody who unironically thinks Rorschach, Joker, or Tyler Durden or the Punisher are the actual heroes run. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like run from that fucking person.
They don't know how to consume media.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're just literally. I mean, either they don't know how to consume it or they understand it perfectly and they're fucking sociopaths.
They're just cool with it. Yeah.
So yeah, it's unfortunate, man, that we do after all live in a society, as a great man once said.
I don't know what the remedy is. I really don't know what the remedy is. Like, what? Like, take a movie like Joker. How do you reframe that movie any better to show that being the Joker is not cool? You know.
I mean, I know there are people who don't see what that movie is really about. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how it's possible. I really don't. Kind of like with Starship Troopers at this point.
Right.
But even with Joker, even more, because it does kind of spell it out that the systems fail him. He was born into a system that like he's disabled, and even the basic, public services that have kept him in line, barely on track, have failed him now. And like, what happens after that, right? And the people that exploit that kind of person in a society, which is real. People disabled people, mentally ill people are exploited all the time. They're abused, and he goes through all of that. I don't see how anybody can watch that movie and not see that. And it's like, and then the end where he fucking finally pops off and shit, and it's like, that's not glorifying it. It's saying this is a fucking basically a horror story. It's what it evolves into. You know what I mean?
Right.
And honestly, if it wasn't the Joker, maybe if it was just the exact same movie but nothing Joker related, maybe it would be. I don't know. Maybe more people would catch that. I don't know. But yeah, I agree, man. I don't know how. I don't really know how people miss this stuff. I do think, though, in the case of the Punisher, there has been a lot of, like Robo was saying, a lot of examples where it maybe wasn't so clear.
At the end of every issue, they need to have Castle go back to his apartment and just sit there and like sob, like, "What have I become?" Like,
put the gun in his mouth.
Just to let us know.
Yeah, every issue needs to be like, maybe the one I should be punishing is myself.
Yes.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It really is. It's just like, because I do think that there is literary value to the Punisher as a character when it's, and it can be just as valuable as Spider-Man, but the tricky thing is that some people don't consume with nuance. They don't see layers, so it's, yeah.
So much of entertainment is finding a way to package violence in a way that's palatable and ethical. Do you know what I mean? Like, they go in with the central conceit is we're going to show people violence, but we're going to find a way to make it palatable. We're going to have this guy's whole family get killed so that whatever he does is okay. We're going to have this guy's daughter get kidnapped so that whatever he does is completely justified.
Or the most fucking perfect, simple example, John Wick.
We're going to kill his dog.
Killed his puppy. And then you're on board to watch this dude murder everybody for 5 movies. You know what I mean? Like, just all it takes.
And the thing is, I don't mind it because, like, I'll watch it. I'll watch John Wick. They kill his dog, and then he kills all of them. And I'm not sitting there analyzing it. I'm sitting there thinking, like, this is an awesome movie. This fight choreography is amazing, and I hate all these motherfuckers because they were part of the organization where some kid killed this dude's dog. Like, I'm there. I'm where the movie wants me. But then I leave the theater and I go back to being a normal person. I go back to being a person that doesn't necessarily think you should go on a killing spree, doesn't really support violence for violence's sake. I feel like there's like a level of fantasy that some people can go to and return from, and some people just can't return from. You know what I mean?
You're right. These are often the same people who, they buy a bunch of guns. They consider themselves like survivalists and shit like that because they legit think that, I don't know, they're going to take on the government someday. You know what I mean? Like that kind of delusional nonsense that, and you're right. They don't process fantasy in that way. And I've thought about doing a video about this. I've got notes and stuff on it where, like, you can look up the differences between the types of media, like movies and stuff and shows that conservatives will generally watch versus anybody else. And the stuff that conservatives watch is often propaganda, pro wrestling, you know, which like in my dad's case and other people I've known, it's like they know it's not real, but they also don't know. It's kind of weird. When I've talked to my dad about it, he will say, no, it's, you know, yeah, I know the storylines are fake, but then he'll talk about it in a way that like, no, I think you think it's real, Dad. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
And there, I think there is kind of this failure to fully grasp the difference between, you know what I mean, fantasy and reality. And so they see the Punisher and it's like, of course, all of us have this internal thing where if our family's murdered, I don't think anybody could not relate to the feeling of like, I just want to murder all those motherfuckers that killed my family. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's a valid feeling, but then, you know, that's why it's a fantasy.
It's tricky determining which, like, just to kind of use a generic made up term of like which dark fantasies are okay in indulging in a fictional safe context and which ones aren't. I think the society has sort of like accepted that it's okay to visit a violent, like kill a bunch of bad guys fantasy world for, you know, 2.5 hours, however long a movie is, and then come back from that. But maybe it's bad. Maybe we shouldn't have violent fantasies. Like maybe righteous violence shouldn't be a plot device. But then I don't know what happens to the whole superhero genre if we follow that to its conclusion, you know?
I think Robo Strange kind of hit on what the real issue is, or part of it anyway. Because we've talked about the one issue of as far as like unhealthy mentalities and like that's all, you know, toxic masculinity, you know, gun culture, as far as like unhealthy, irresponsible gun culture, which is always typically on the right. But what Robo's saying here, I think, hits on the other part of it, which is capitalism. Marvel had a success with a character that, you know, like you can look back at that time period of Spider-Man comics, which is what Punisher debuted in, and you can probably find all kinds of characters that we've never really heard of again, right? Because they were just, we need a new character for Spider-Man to fight, and that's pretty much what Punisher was. They weren't thinking this is going to be a long-term profit vehicle for us. You know what I mean? So it's like Jerry Conway threw the Punisher in there. It's just like, here's a cool idea for a Spider-Man story.
He's kind of just like a villain in the first first issue. Yeah.
And then people fucking loved it. People loved it. They wanted more of it. That, you know, those issues sold fucking like gangbusters, and Marvel's like, oh, yeah. And then you can literally look through the 80s and see that he's popping up in pretty much every title across the Marvel universe he was in as a cameo or extended cameo, right? Like there was even Archie in the Punisher. And, you know, like they clearly saw that this, we can, you know, we hit on something. It's got a pretty, you know, distinct design, the logo, which is really another crux of the problem, is how fucking striking and distinct it is. And they just ran with it. And I don't think they ever really stopped. I mean, I'm sure different writers stopped to think about, what am I trying to say with the Punisher? But I don't think Marvel at like the corporate level, you know, was like, are we being responsible with this character? You know,
not at all. Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Very good point.
Yeah. And I sorry, I feel like I hate repeating myself, but in my videos, I did compare, I'd seen people say that, that the Punisher is actually better than Batman because he's more effective, because he actually kills the villains and Batman just locks them up and they get back out. And it's like, okay, no.
Batman could do a little bit more killing, though. Come on.
Oh, well, okay. Let's take Batman
the 80th
out of the
time. Yeah.
Let's take Batman out of it and just look at the Punisher. And like, as you know, what that doesn't consider the fact that violence has an outward ripple effect. And let's say Frank kills a bunch of guys in the mob. That power vacuum is going to, you know, new guys are going to come in. There's going to be more violence. It doesn't solve anything. It only solves his mood at the time. It makes him feel better momentarily, essentially. And that's the issue, is that he's a broken guy, psychologically broken, and he's only doing it for himself. You know, I mean, like he's kind of rationalizing it in terms of, and yeah, maybe the people that he kills, those specific people aren't going to hurt anybody. But, you know, then there's going to be probably, there's going to be a power vacuum. There's going to be gang wars, you know, whatever the circumstances is. It's not just, violence doesn't happen in a vacuum. So to say that he's effective and that he actually solves anything is not accurate at all.
And the best Punisher stories sort of address that, like especially Garth Ennis. But the best, and like there is like a spot between in like the 80s and 90s, when especially in the 90s, where they really just didn't even really approach that. It was just, what's the newest Frank Castle adventure where he kills a bunch of people. But especially like 2000s and onward, they really do kind of show how futile his mission of trying to kill all bad people is.
Yeah.